Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into one of the most famous lines in all of English poetry, and we're going to expose the beautiful lie it's built on.
Yeah, you've almost certainly heard this one before, right? It's the opening line of William Wordsworth's classic poem, The Daffodils, and it instantly paints this picture, doesn't it? You see this solitary artist, all alone with his thoughts, just him and nature.
Now, it seems like a simple enough question, but the answer? Oh, the answer cracks open this incredible story about art, about truth, and about a hidden collaborator whose side of the story, well, it changes absolutely everything.
Okay, so to really get the lie, we first have to understand the powerful image that's right at the heart of this poem, this idea of the poet just wandering completely on his own.
See, when Wordsworth says lonely, he's not talking about being sad. Not at all. He's actually celebrating solitude. It's this idea that being on your own is a kind of freedom, a way to connect with nature. He's basically crafting the perfect image of a poet for his time, this idea of finding freedom by being alone. And that idea was at the very heart of a whole new artistic movement. And, to really grasp why that image of the solo artist was so radical, we need to kind of zoom out for a second and look at the huge artistic revolution that was happening right at that time.
So these guys, the Romantics, they were total rebels. They were pushing back hard against the super rigid, rule-bound, you gotta color inside the lines art of the 18th century. They were basically saying, nope, we're done. We're not following those old templates anymore.
Okay, here's a really simple way to think about this massive shift. The art of the 18th century. Think of it like a perfectly manicured garden. Everything is organized, rational, super orderly. But the Romantics? Oh, they wanted the complete opposite. They wanted the jungle, wild, untamed, emotional, and totally free.
So you can see how this idea, this image of a lonely poet wandering around like a cloud, it wasn't just a description of some guy on a walk. It was a huge, powerful symbol for this entire artistic revolution. It stood for freedom from society and this raw, direct connection to wild nature. But, and this is a big but, there's a problem with this perfect symbol of the lonely artist. A big one. Because it turns out we have a key piece of evidence that tells a completely, and I mean completely different story.
Yeah, the truth wasn't found in a famous published poem. No, it was hidden away in a private journal, a secret diary that was never, ever meant for public eyes.
This was the journal of his sister, Dorothy Wordsworth. Now, Dorothy lived with her brother William, and she was a brilliant observer and writer herself. And on one specific day, April 15th, 1802, she wrote about the exact same walk that would later inspire his famous poem.
And her account is incredible. It describes the exact same scene, the lake, the trees, the daffodils dancing in the wind. But her diary adds one crucial detail that changes everything. See, in her version of the story, he wasn't alone.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's put William's public poem right up against Dorothy's private journal. When you see them side by side, the difference is, well, it's just stark.
Look at this. His famous poem is all built around a solitary I, the lone genius. But her diary, it's all about we, a shared experience.
So he wasn't alone. He was with her. The poem intentionally, deliberately transformed a shared memory into a solitary vision. This was no accident. It wasn't a simple mistake. He actively chose to write his companion, his own sister, right out of the story.
So why? Why would he change the truth like that? And that question right there gets to the very heart of what this poem was really trying to do. And it was doing a lot more than just describing some pretty flowers.
So, let's dive into it. Why invent this whole fiction of the solitary genius? The answer tells us pretty much everything about what the poem was really about.
Okay, so here's how it breaks down. The poem wasn't just a report of, here's what happened on our walk. It was a performance. It was a drama. Wordsworth was trying to show how art gets made. You have this powerful experience in nature, it enters the mind of a single poet, and then, bam, it's transformed into a masterpiece.
That image of the solitary poet, it was a carefully crafted fiction. He was building a myth. The myth of the disconnected, brilliant artist who gets these flashes of inspiration directly from nature all by himself. Honestly, it just made for a much better story, and it fit that romantic ideal perfectly.
Because in reality, this poem was a team effort, a collaborative enterprise.
Dorothy's incredibly vivid, detailed observations in her journal, that was the raw material. Her eye is what captured the scene, and her words probably helped him remember it all, maybe years later. You could say her private record was the real foundation that his public masterpiece was built on.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty big and maybe uncomfortable question. Does it matter if great art isn't literally, factually true? Is its power in getting the facts right, or is it in the emotional truth that it creates for us? It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other solitary geniuses out there had a secret collaborator that we just never knew about?